for any short period of time, you can pull a lever and feel good domestically. You can certainly win votes by pulling that lever. But the question is, what's the implication long term, both domestically and internationally, from that action? And with that planning horizon, it's hard to imagine them being as militaristic as we sometimes fear, as opposed to them being very strategic in their use of economic weapons, if you will.
Today, I want to talk about the potential tariffs that are coming down the pipe. You know, there's a lot of people guessing what's going to be happening, and I think your expertise in retail could really kind of give us some insight. Let me kind of give you your background real quick. So I've got James Keys today. He's a past CEO of 7-Eleven from 2000 to 2005, and also the CEO of Blockbuster from 2007 to 2011. So you got a little experience in retail. How do you think these potential tariffs are going to be affecting retail across the United States, James?
Well, let's talk about the step back from the tariffs for a second. Let's just talk about global business, right?
Right.
Because really that's what this is all about. There's a whole trend now toward nationalism and pull it in and, bring jobs back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that feels good, sounds good to the average guy on the street who says, yeah, they took away my job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But here's a little different perspective. 200 years ago, the economy was local. It was local, and maybe it was to some degree national as countries began to emerge and build a national presence. Today, the world is a much, much smaller place because of technology, and economics is global. So yes, we still have a dollar. There are currencies all over the world, but the reality is this is a completely interwoven, inextractable, it's a hard word to say.
When it's this close to Christmas, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you try to pull a lever like tariffs, there is going to be an equal and opposite reaction to that action that you take. And it will occur and it will upset the balance in some fashion. So my concern is that the ultimate decision is based on more of a global look than it is just a domestic look, because for any short period of time, you can pull a lever and feel good domestically.
Right.
You can certainly win votes by pulling that lever.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, what's the implication long term, both domestically and internationally, from that action, right?
Yep.
And so the short term impact, of course, feels good, bring jobs back, everybody's happy. The longer term impact is a whole host of things. Clearly, consumer products could rise, prices could rise because, let's face it, you think about companies like Walmart that became successful by sourcing goods internationally and leveraging their worldwide scale to get a great cost of goods and pass that cost of goods along to the consumer. Now, if they still can't access those goods at a favorable cost internationally, what do you think is going to happen to their prices? What do you think is going to happen to the consumer as a result? It's a natural flow through. Many say, "Oh, that won't happen." It's a balancing act to some extent. It almost has to happen. Now, can we use that tool to push others to behave in a different fashion? Possibly. I'm not one who likes to bluff. I prefer to be straight up and transparent. I've always found it a better way to do business. It's different from a game of cards or something else where you can, bluff your way through. But to me, the better solution is to sit down at a negotiating table and work out a win-win scenario for both sides, whether it's China and the US or um, manufacturers and the government, whatever it is, that there is a better solution than the easy lever to pull, which is let's just throw tariffs on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you think that long-term prices could go up a little bit, but aren't a lot of retailers right now taking steps to keep that from happening? They're going back to the manufacturing, say, "Hey, listen, if we get these tariffs, and we're going to have to talk about pricing, what else could they be doing?"
Well, again, it's so interwoven. I mean, think about cars. Okay, we're gonna bring car manufacturer back to the United States. Now, first of all, I share with you, I sat in a presentation in France with one of the leading car manufacturers, and someone asked him about, you know, unfair labor practices, countries like Mexico and China where they have cheap workers. You know what he said? I really respected him for this point of view. He said, "Well, we have two choices. We can either throw on tariffs and or prevent those products from being brought into our country, or we can accept that it's going to make us a better competitor if we have to deal with that competitive threat and challenge."
Yeah,
And that's the way I look at it. I mean, as a business person, there's always going to be somebody with a competitive advantage. Let me give you an example. I was running Blockbuster at the time. In comes Redbox, right? You remember Redbox?
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. You want to hear something that was a real pain in the ass? You know what they did?
But
They couldn't get the studios to give them movies. Studios weren't going to sell them a major new release. They were going to put Top Gun in a red box and let them rent it for 99 cents. Destroyed their economic model, right? So they wouldn't sell it to them. So what Redbox do? They went to Walmart. Walmart was using DVDs as a loss leader. So they would buy DVDs at $10. They had a whole army of kids running around buying these things in Walmart and then put them in their device. Now Walmart didn't know any better. They thought, "Wow, great, we're selling all these DVDs." They were using it as a loss leader. They're actually losing money on
sure,
every DVD they sold.
yeah,
Redbox ended up with a better cost of goods than mine at Blockbuster,
right,
and we were the largest, partner of the studios in the world. Studios couldn't do anything about it. Walmart wouldn't do anything about it because it was a decentralized decision for store managers to have to do, and the store managers liked the volume.
sure,
And Redbox was happy with it. So that's completely unfair practices.
right,
Now, I could whine about it all day long. I could try to get legislation put in
sure,
place to prevent that unfair practice, or I could say, you know what? I just got to be better at what
yeah.
we do. And that's the way we looked at it, that there's always going to be somebody out there with an unfair advantage. And I can either bitch about it,
Or go do something about
pass
it.
a law, right? Or I can just get better as a
Yeah.
competitor myself.
So let me ask you, I'm going to throw you under the bus here a little bit, James. Is if you were back running 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
one of the largest retailers in the United States, how would you be feeling about these tariffs right now? And what would you be doing to prepare?
At the end of the day, I wouldn't, as an individual retailer, I didn't sweat it very much because it's not like the tariffs would be only applied to 7-Eleven products.
Right.
They're going to be applied to all products. Now, would I like it? No, because it was going to have to make me respond. I'd probably have to raise my consumer prices because I wasn't going to eat if the tariffs caused those products to be more expensive in the short term. I wasn't going to eat it on my margin, so I'd pass it along to the consumer to the extent I could, and most retailers will do that. It's a natural thing. And the way I looked at it at 7-Eleven is the same way I'd look at it, labor cost. Everybody freaks out about increases in minimum wage. At the end of the day, I didn't care. It's a level playing field. Everybody has to pay $15. Who cares? Um,
Right.
and so, yeah, as an individual company, I wouldn't worry about it so much. My greater concern would be the impact on the overall economy, which would affect me ultimately
Sure.
and affect my shareholders. So that's my bigger concern. And we're about to enter a period where there's a lot of change. And look, I'm endorsing a lot of the change. We obviously did need to get more fiscal responsibility in government. But think about all of the levers that are being pulled simultaneously.
Yeah.
You got tariffs on one hand, you got drill baby drill on another hand. Now, the irony there is we flood the market in crude oil. That sounds great to us, but the
Yep.
gas prices, oil prices are going to crater, and the
Yeah.
whole industry will be on their heels. The oil industry will all be on their heels if that happens. If we cut 10 million government jobs at the end of the day, we're going to drive unemployment through the roof. If we deport millions of individuals doing labor in our I don't think those government workers are going to leave their office in DC and go pick strawberries. So so
I'm
so my
guessing not.
yeah, I got I'd love to see that,
Yeah.
they make a great video. Um, but my point is there having run a major global organization, I recognize the opportunity to get
Right.
efficiencies. And yet, when you're sitting there and you've got all these levers you can pull, you must be very careful about which lever you pull
Right.
at with what degree of strength you pull it for fear of turning the apple cart completely upside down.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts right now. Now
A
I
lot of
know that
moving
you've set in, running these major companies, Blockbuster, the 7-Eleven. You've sat in a room with a lot of very, very powerful people. Do you think that what will be the outcome of these tariffs? Do you think a lot of them will just get washed away and it's a negotiation tactic right now? Or do you think probably going to hit? Your
I,
opinion. I don't want to get political, but uh, I got to be careful here on this one.
it's anybody's guess what will happen. I suspect that uh, it's a bit of a negotiating tactic to, lay the specter of tariffs out there in the interest of getting change, and that can work. Again, it's not my negotiating style. I prefer to have a more of a transparent
Yeah,
uh, opportunity to sit down and seek a win-win.
right,
I don't particularly see countries like China as in the same light as many do. I've done a lot of business in China. I see them as a formidable competitor. I don't see them necessarily as an enemy because I do believe that their planning horizon is 20, 30 years out, where ours tend to be next quarter.
right.
And with that planning horizon, it's hard to imagine them being as militaristic as we sometimes fear, as opposed to them being very strategic in their use of economic weapons, if you will,
Right.
to compete successfully. But again, we can either choose that as an act to see that as an act of war or an act of, ironically, capitalism.
Yeah.
You know, we've we've kind of taught them how to be capitalists, and they're,
Yeah.
sometimes pretty darn good at it.
They learn well. Well,
They learn well.
it's gonna be an exciting time, that's for sure, when over the
It
next
is.
few months. So I guess we'll
It
see
is.
how it plays out. And I just wanted to get you back on here and really walk you through because I know that you'd sat in a room with all these people and really had a good understanding of the way it worked. And I know that a lot of people have a lot of anxiety from it, so I hope that maybe this will eliminate some of that. But let's talk a little bit about what you're working on. Education is freedom. So you're out there, you're going to have a heck of a trip coming up. You're going to be out there pushing the book, talking about the
Yeah.
book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm actually on my way to the Middle East, of all places, to talk about freedom. And now, if I don't come back, you
Yeah, I was
have
going to
to
say. Well, I'm going to
send a
be in
rep.
Dubai in January for a few days. If I need to come get you, just ping me, and I'll make sure. I'm going to be in India and Dubai here in the next couple of weeks. So,
I mean, I
um,
may need a little help. You have
yeah,
to bring.
don't hesitate to reach out. But so you're out there giving a book tour, correct?
I'm joking, but yes, I'm giving a book tour. The name of the book is Education is Freedom.
Yeah.
And really the message is that so much of what we face in this world right now, whether it's politically, ideologically, uh, economically is fear-based. You
Yeah.
know, I, I don't know how or when society became so mired in fear and victimhood. You know, those guys are taking advantage of me. You know, the good old American way was, well, fine, we'll show them, we'll get better.
Yeah.
And now it's, no, let's punish them. Let's, go to war with them. Let's do this. Let's do that. I just think that the root of all of this opportunity, let's say,
Hmm.
is to eliminate ignorance
Yep.
and replace it with knowledge and replace it with clarity and effective communications, which ultimately can be such a better solution for so many of these problems than turning them into political weapons or, um, fighting over things that are somewhat inconsequential in the long term.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that's the nature of the book, to try to get people to get back to the basics of critical thinking, curiosity, rationality, those kind of fundamentals. And at the heart of it, and the reason I say education is freedom, is that going all the way back to our forefathers, they recognized that the foundation of democracy was an educated populace. And if we want democracy to take root all over the world, then the foundation of that democratic process is going to be an educated worldwide populace. And I'm doing my own little part, getting over there as far to other countries as much as I can and talking about the power of knowledge to be able to eliminate fear and enhance capitalism, across the globe.
Well, I think you're doing more than a little. Every time I see you on Instagram, you're somewhere else out giving a talk about it. So obviously you're doing a lot out there. Why don't you talk a little bit about your Education is Freedom Foundation as well, please?
Sure. Yeah, I've been a bit of a Where's Waldo, huh?
Yeah, every time I go on, I'm like, God damn, does that guy even sleep?
Yeah, where is he now?
Yeah.
The Education Freedom Foundation is something I started about 20 years ago. And by the way, my office is on an airport, so if you hear if you hear
Oh,
noise in
you're
the
also
back,
a pilot too. I see you out there flying all the time.
oh yeah, yeah, that's why I office on an airport. It's a great
Oh,
place to be. The airplane's right downstairs.
oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, yeah, it's one of the unique freedoms that we have here in America to be able
Yep.
to jump in an airplane and fly anywhere in the world that you want to go.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I started the foundation about 20 years ago to really to recognize that corporations have a role in our the education of our youth, because ultimately business is all about managing resources. And the most valuable resource that any business has, I don't care what kind of business it is, ultimately is that human resource.
Yep.
And the way I look at it, 20 years ago, I saw a supply problem with the human resources. I couldn't hire college educated store managers to service all the 7-Eleven stores.
Right.
20 years later, it's even worse because our education system, we've sort of de-emphasized the importance of a college education. The public schools have been slipping in science and math and not preparing young people for college. So the net of this is that if we want to compete on the global stage long term
Yep.
against countries like China, India, places that are really doubling down on education, then we've got to invest in corporations, not just, it's one of those things we can't sit back and wait and say, well, government will fix that. Um, we'll be waiting a while, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But corporations, if you recognize as a corporate leader that that human resource is one of the most valuable resources you have. If this was chips and we needed chips, we'd be building chip factories. So
Right.
why aren't we building student factories, getting out there by corporations, leading the charge, bring technology to the classroom? We complain about kids not being engaged, being disrupted. What's more fun to play a video game than to sit in class? But that doesn't have to be. We can make
Yeah.
class as engaging as a video game.
Hmm.
But somebody has to step up and say, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Watch, I can do this.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be a better way, right? It's keeping their
Yeah.
attention. I mean, I remember when I was in high school a long time ago, it was hard. And, it was there's just, if you can make it entertaining, because they've grown up with these things in their hands. If you could,
Yeah.
make it more entertaining for them, I think we could be having a little more success. And so, because I'm huge into education too. Now, you also give scholarships as well, correct?
Yeah, I did. I had a kind of a cool one I did recently with Mr. Beast. I don't know
Oh,
if you,
look at you hanging
I
out with the big
know.
YouTube guys. Look, I'm lucky to get you on here.
Hey man, I'm a hip old guy. No, no, I was really lucky. Mr. Beast, Jimmy Donaldson has something called Beast Philanthropy.
Right.
And for all the grief that people give TikTok and YouTube and social media and everything, here's a kid 26 years old that with 260 million followers all over the world has turned his attention to how to do good.
Yeah.
And he created a whole philanthropy effort. And he's teaching young kids the power of philanthropy. So he called, or he didn't call me, his people called me, Beast Philanthropy people reached out, said, "Hey, how'd you like to partner on a scholarship opportunity associated with your new book?" And I was like, "Yeah, great idea." So we literally teed up 10,000 scholarships, offered them to kids worldwide.
Amazing.
Jimmy, Mr. Beast, held up my book in one of his videos, said, "Read this book and post a video telling us why education is freedom. What's it mean to you?" So I have videos from Beijing to Botswana. I mean, all these kids pouring their hearts. Just today, I awarded uh, one of the last scholarships to a young man in Uganda.
Oh man. Okay.
And this kid to get a $10,000 scholarship to go to university in Uganda, I mean, he was lit up. The kid was so excited. I mean, in his words, "You changed my life. You changed the life of my community." And ultimately, his dream is to use technology to help transform education in Africa and in the whole continent. And so, you get to do something like that. Man, it doesn't get much better.
What an amazing story. I'd be very proud of what you're accomplishing, and the fact that you got to go with Mr. Beast. That's something.
No, Joe, I'm I got a better word than pride. It's called gratitude.
Yeah.
Because I am just so fortunate. I mean, to have these things, to have this opportunity to do something like this, not just in my community, but globally. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It's really a privilege to be able to do something like that.
Well, and you weren't handed anything. I didn't want to go back into your bio because we went through it in the last video. I'm going to link the last video, and you weren't handed anything. And so what you're doing is, you've worked hard your entire career. And so I'm proud of you. You can have your damn gratitude, but I'm going to be proud of everything that you've accomplished. And I appreciate you. I know you're busy right now, so you got to get packed and head out to the Middle East. So thank you for taking the time to come on today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to. We'll continue the conversation when
You
I get
bet. When I
back
get to
from.
Dallas, we'll go for hopefully I can catch you when you're going up for a flight. I can ride along.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You know what? I'm working on a podcast I'm going to call Plane Talk, and I'm doing it
Oh,
from the cockpit. So
oh, that's brilliant.
yeah.
Oh, I
So next
love
time you
that.
come to Dallas, we'll jump in the plane and we'll go film a podcast segment. How's that?
We'll do that. I'm going to hold you to that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And thank you
All
very
right, Joe.
much. And for those of you watching, thank you for taking the time to watch us. If you could, please give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. And I'm also going to put Education is Freedom. It's up on the Joe Kellinger website, but I'm going to put a link below so you can go find the book as well. So, all right.
And
Thank
Jake
you.
at Jake Keys author if you want to find me.
I'm going to find you. All right, sir.
All right, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you much.